Curfew was imposed across the valley on Tuesday as authorities apprehended violent protests in view of plans by separatists and Pakistan-sponsored groups to observe August 5th, the first anniversary of revocation of Jammu and Kashmir special status, as Black Day. Police and CRPF personnel were deployed in strength across the valley to ensure that the plans of the separatists to disturb peace did not succeed. Police vehicles fitted with the public address systems went around localities announcing the imposition of strict curfew for 2 days. On August 5, 2019, the Government of India revoked the special status or limited autonomy granted under Article 370 of the Indian Constitution to Jammu and Kashmir. On the eve of the first anniversary, since certain sections of Article 370 were scrapped, in the big picture today, we will analyze what has changed in Jammu and Kashmir since the revocation of the special status. Joining me on the program today are SP Vaid, former Director General of Police, Jammu and Kashmir, Prafulla Ketkar, Editor, the Organizer, and Major General Ashwini Sivaj, retired Strategic Affairs Expert. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Vaid, I'd like to begin the program with you first. Let's try and understand and analyze what has changed since the revocation of special status in Jammu and Kashmir over the last 1 year from an internal security point of view.
See, if you analyze the situation after August 5 last year, the number of terrorist incidents have come down around 30-40%. The local recruitment has come down. The infiltration level has come down. That means the vigil in the on the border by Army and the BSF is strict and very well coordinated. The operations are very, very successful in terms of achievement against terrorism. There's a great synergy between the different forces, J&K Police, Army, CRPF. You are getting good results. Stone pelting incidents have come down drastically. Law and order situation, no major law and order situation happened after 5th August. So internal security wise, I think it is auguring well after last year's decision, and it has gone down so far okay. But I would like to add here that now we have politically, constitutionally and geographically integrated Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir with the rest of India. I think now is the time to emotionally also integrate people of Kashmir Valley with the rest of India. And the overall situation, I feel, is doing well because Kashmiris are generally emotional people. So there is a requirement of, see, every generation has an aspiration. The young boys of Kashmir Valley also have aspirations. They must be made to realize that their future lies in India and they have a great future in the coming days. So that everyone in the valley is engaged in some kind of activity, whether in terms of tourism, in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of metro, in terms of various development projects, horticulture, floriculture. Let every hand in Kashmir be engaged. A lot of projects were being unfolded by government of J&K under the government of India's supervision. But unfortunately, this COVID-19 came in. So it has, for the time being, stalled these. I'm sure in the days to come, things will pick up and every soul in Kashmir will be engaged, and you will see as the years pass on, things improving drastically. Only thing we need to ensure that you filter whatever propaganda is propagated from across. That is actually damaging young minds in Kashmir. We need to come out with a technological solution. I have been talking of this even as DGP. Like China has its own way of handling things. We should, though we are not a country like China, we are a democratic country, but we need to have a technical solution to filter all radical material which is coming from across, provocating material which is actually poisoning the minds of the youth. That needs to be
Okay, we
done.
need a technical solution to filter and to block out the propaganda that comes from across the border and corrupts the mind of the youth, is what the former DGP is suggesting. So, General, I'd like to come to you now and find out from you, from a security and an intelligence point of view, from an external security point of view, what has changed over the last 1 year?
Frank, first of all, after Article 370 and 35, which was abrogated on 5th August 2019, the J&K state has been now divided into two union territory. One is Jammu and Kashmir, and one is Ladakh. So both have slightly a different security challenge. Now, first of all, we cover what has changed in as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. Now, as you are aware of it, that once this revocation was done and special status of Jammu and Kashmir was removed, so there was apprehension that there will be some sort of internal disorder which will be backed by the Pakistanis, and you will find people coming in the street. That has not happened at all. Internally, the situation was controlled very well. As far as outside is concerned, the Pakistan is trying its best to send as many terrorists possible, because what has happened in last about 1 year plus, more than 200 terrorists has been eliminated, and majority of these terrorists which have been eliminated are the basically leaders of Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizb al-Mujahideen. And inside Kashmir, the radicalization has reduced in South Kashmir, and also the HM leadership is also completely wiped off. So now the Pakistanis were feeling the heat. They wanted to send the fresh terrorists, and especially the leadership, which they were trying to infiltrate, because 300 to 350 terrorists have been sitting on launchpad throughout the year and trying to find out a spot to infiltrate. That has not been able to be successful. Our infiltration grid on a line of control has been very effective, and we found that majority of the terrorists has been eliminated on line of control itself. But notwithstanding that, Pakistan will keep on attempting this. 2-3 things which has happened, which has made a tremendous difference is, in Jammu and Kashmir, this Hawala money which was coming through the Hurriyat, which was distributed to the stone pelters and also for other nefarious activities, the NIA has managed to choke it. So that is a very good thing. The second thing is, once the situation has become almost normal in Kashmir Valley, you find no pressure of the political parties, also no pressure of the militants. The intelligence starts flowing from the local, and therefore more coordination of security forces and intelligence, more successful operation, and able to eliminate the maximum charge.
Okay, all right, points taken. Let me take the points that you're making forward with Praful Ketkar now. The positive developments or the positive change for the better is not limited just to the valley, but also across Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and we have to see it in totality. Praful Ketkar.
I do find this is the biggest difference, that we have started talking in totality. Otherwise, our obsession with the valley and the 4-5 problematic districts was so obvious, even in the larger think tanks and security discourse, as if entire Jammu Kashmir was in flames. Mr. Ved would agree with me that the problem is so limited to certain pockets of valley. And we started talking about the Kashmir problem. Now we have identified the problem and focusing on it. Rest of the things can be addressed for larger development discourse. I think that is the biggest difference. I will just give you the figures to understand the what had changed. 593 projects were lingering on for almost 2.5 decades related to just road and bridges. Now, if the things schedule go well, because there are certain problems with the COVID-19 crisis, these projects would be completed by 2021. They are going in full force. Besides that, 111 projects costing more than 2,000 crores of budget already got completed this year by March 31st. So from August to March 31st itself, there is a huge difference when it comes to the delivery mechanism is concerned. But what had changed drastically, Frank, we need to understand is, one, at the level of discrimination, Mr. Wade talked about the constitutional and the legal thing. We have granted domicile certificates to as many as more than 5,000 families who had come from the West Pakistan immediately after 1947. Then there were certain families who had come after 1965. There were certain categories of people, whether Gorkhas, whether Valmikis, whether some women who has got their permanent resident certificate sort of, or domicile certificate. I think as far as implementing our constitution is concerned, there is a huge step forward. Besides that, implementation of GST, Prevention of Corruption Act, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, and these are the phenomenal transitional acts that are implemented in the entire union territories, both of Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh. And lastly, I would like to make a point that the forces like Hurriyat, or whatever the so-called the torch bearers of so-called separatism, absolutely become irrelevant. Even some voices are talking about now, they are not talking about special status, they are not talking about separatism. What they are talking about? Restoration of assembly. Restoration of assembly, as the government has already spoken about, will be definitely considered at the appropriate time. But you see, the discourse has completely changed. Now people are talking about restoration of assembly and democratic representation, and not separatism. I think that should be sufficient to understand the impact of amendment to Article 370 and abrogation of 35A.
Okay, points taken. Let me take the discussion forward now, Mr. Wade. Let's talk about some of the things that have been difficult to handle over the last 1 year or so. What were they? How are we trying to address them, and what more needs to be done?
See, before that, I would like to just highlight a few things. One is the application of many central laws, which was actually denied. Number two, roughly 5 lakh people of West Pakistan refugees, Balmiki and Gorkha, who were denied basic right, actually have integrated. Now they are the full citizens. All India services and central services were denied the right to settle even after serving for 3 decades. Now they will get these rights. Coming to the Hurriyat, see, Hurriyat is now in disarray. This was actually, they were leading the separatist forces. Now all that money, as General was mentioning, Hawala money is now choked. So they are not getting money to pay to the stone pelters. That's why you see how stone peltings have come down. Difficulty was, see, as earlier I said, the instigation which is coming from across. We can't deny permanently the internet facility to a huge population, which is in today's life very, very essential. A time will come, you will have to provide this facility. So that's why I was saying, while let every citizen enjoy this, the right of internet and connectivity to the world, but we need to take care technological solution to check Pakistan. Pakistan's one ambition is to disintegrate India, and they one small incident, what happened here 2 days back in Gurgaon, a Muslim boy got beaten up. It is a criminal act. No one condones this, but it will be on the social media highlighted thousands of times to poison the minds of Kashmiri boys. So that we need to check. The number 2, because of cutting off internet and mobile telephone system, there was a slump during this period because no information was coming. And you must have seen after 5th August, for a few months, operations were slowed down. But then, as we restored the telephone system, we restored 2G, both technical inputs started pouring in and human input started coming in. And that's why you are seeing in last 2, 3, 4 months, number of good operations which we need to continue further. And pressure on the Hurriyat by the NIA and other central agencies should continue, because they are the people who actually create the problem in the youth. They are the people who are responsible for destruction of Kashmir. So they need to continue to be choked and handled both legally and in other terms also. I would not like to elaborate those here, but this pressure should continue. Political system, one day we will have to restore. After all, India is a democracy, and you will have to go for elections, maybe after the delimitation is over. There was, before central rule, there was actually on the local police, political system is an integral part of the system. So there were some limitations to the local police to act. With the governor's rule and abrogation of Article 370, that has actually has gone. So that we need to work out mechanism that when political system comes, how we can ensure the fair working of police so that they are not unduly interfered in. That's my worry in the days to come.
Yes, certainly. Talking about worries in the days to come, General, let's focus on the valley and let's talk about some of the challenges that we need to brace for from across the border. As far as the valley is concerned, what are some of the challenges that you see in the months and years to come, and how do we address those challenges?
Frank, as what I was trying to tell you, as far as the valley is concerned, our biggest challenge is that Pakistan deep state will like to send the terrorists and create a problem inside Jammu and Kashmir and show to the world that the Jammu and Kashmir is boiling, especially after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. So far, Pakistan has failed completely. The world has seen it. That is, as far as Kashmir and Ladakh is concerned, it has been very peaceful in last 1 year. The violence level has reduced. The terrorists which are killed are maximum. The leadership is wiped off. So Pakistan will keep on trying. Pakistan is not going to, sit idle. Will keep on trying to spread the propaganda, information war, cyber war. It will create and sort of a problem in Kashmir, which so far it is not successful. So therefore, the challenge is that once we open up the communication from 2G to 4G, the challenge will increase further. Now, the other 2-3 issues which are coming with this is, the problem in Jammu and Kashmir is that why are the youth joining the militancy, or why are they getting radicalized? The basic factor is that the youth is not getting an opportunity of employment. And that is what the government was thinking. Today there are no industries in Jammu and Kashmir. There is hardly any option for employment. And this is where the government of the day was thinking, 80,000 crore rupees was given by the Prime Minister Relief Fund in 2015. Only 10 to 15% was utilized till last year. Now it is about 49%. So the development will start taking place now. There are 168 MOU which has been signed with the global players, and almost 13,600 crore rupees for investment will come in. 85,000 employment vacancies are lying in Jammu and Kashmir. Out of them, 800 are of gazetted officer, and rest of them are class 4 and non-gazetted. They have not been taken. So our biggest challenge as far as Kashmir Valley is concerned, to ensure that the youth which is not having enough opportunity must be employed.
Okay. So, Rahul Ketkar, let me take a couple of points forward with you now. This issue of development, how key is it? How important is it? And by when can we see the kind of development that the Prime Minister dreams of in Kashmir?
See, Frank, I think the future, when we talk about, realizing the complete integration, what was called as the emotional integration. See, 370 was a barrier or a hurdle or an unseen wall that was created by vested interest I would like to, add what or slightly, interpret it in a different way. See, youth didn't join the militant camp because they were unemployed. I don't take this as, this simplistic thing. The radicalization and the vested interest ensured that the fruits of development do not reach to them so that they can join militant. 370 was that barrier that was used or misused rather or abused to create that kind of atmosphere. So I think the first challenge and the first responsibility is now that in the new situation, the structures of governance, even the local bodies or what was called there as village development, associations, that needs to be made vibrant now because Article 73 and 74. But we are seeing the kind of terror that is created even among the minds of sarpanch and the people who got elected in this process. So our first responsibility is to ensure the fruits of governance reach to the people and they should feel the difference. Secondly, delinking not just the psychological, the information, the radicalization, but even the financial and the other kind of material that is being created and internationally propagated, because Kashmir is, there are not just vested interests within the valley. There are vested interests all over the world who have been surviving on the so-called Kashmir discourse for decades together, and they have sold Kashmir issue to the world to collect money. So we have to deal with them as well. But the third and the most important point I feel is there are many voices, there are many organizations, there are many forces, not just in Jammu and Ladakh, but even in the valley, who have been nationalists to the core, who have been fighting for the cause of India, who have been stating the constitutional and the integrationist position of India, but unfortunately they didn't get the enough voice to speak about. I think giving them a voice is also an important step to realize what Prime Minister has been talking about. The real Jamhuriyat, what they are talking about. Kashmiriyat was anyway fake, because it was discriminatory for me, because it was anyway excluding Jammu and Ladakh. But Jamhuriyat, as far as Jamhuriyat is concerned, I think there are multifaceted challenges and we have to deal with them at the social, economic, political, as well as emotional level. And it has to be a national issue. It cannot be a valley-centric discourse. Jammu Kashmir, Kashmir or Ladakh cannot be the issue of that region only. It has to be considered as a national.
All right, time to get quick closing comments now from all my guests. I've got about 3 minutes left on the program, so in 1 minute each, the best way forward. Starting first with you, Mr. Ved. As far as going forward is concerned, what do we need to ensure? What do we need to do to ensure that there is integral growth and also there is no sense of alienation among the people of Kashmir?
See, the disillusioned youth or disgruntled youth will always be exploited by Pakistan. So, number one, we should work multi-pronged strategy on checking how to stop this. That is number one. Number two, continue the pressure. Pakistan, both on the LOC and IB, don't allow the way Pakistan infiltrated terrorists from that side, that created problem, that weapons came. So if weapons do not enter and terrorists do not enter, half of the problem is won. So that pressure should continue. Internationally, Pakistan made a lot of hue and cry last year. It did not succeed because truth cannot be hidden, and every country in the world knew it's a country which actually is undertaking cross-border terrorism to India. So no one listened to it. That international isolation of Pakistan should continue. That pressure should continue. Then development front, we must, as my other esteemed speakers mentioned, I think now is the time to show the difference and let Kashmir see a different phase in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Let every hand be occupied. That's what I foresee in the days to come.
All right, General, the best way forward.
Frank, the best way forward is multi-pronged strategy has already been dictated. One is that on line of actual control or in line of control, basically make sure that the infiltration do not take place and ensure the terrorists which are sitting on launch pad are eliminated there and then. Second thing is, as far as internal situation is concerned in J&K, Kashmir Valley must be kept under control. The maximum terrorist leadership should be wiped off. And as the operations are now int-based, they are on a real int, which is given mainly by the civilians which are coming forward. The second issue which is coming is that after keeping the security situation under a tight leash, you now have to focus on the development. The promise was that we are able to establish a multi-pronged strategy by having a investment coming in Jammu and Kashmir. There are only 168 investment companies which has come forward. That's about 13,600 crore. So now the factories must come up. Employment scheme should be generated. Make sure that the unemployed youth is no more unemployment. 6,000 acre of land has been already identified the state government where these 32 industrial towns will be established, which should be now done on the faster pace. That is a very important. And third very important thing is counter Pakistan agenda of cyber warfare, information warfare and cyber. These are the things which we have to be very careful that Pakistan is all bent to create a problem in Jammu and Kashmir. First round is been lost by Pakistan, but the war is still on. The battle has been won by us. We should not put our guard down.
Right. And Praful Ketkar, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Thank you, Frank. Most of the points are already discussed, but I will make just one critical point. I think the entire discourse about Jammu Kashmir has been the challenge of ideas, and it has been ideological battle. And unfortunately, thanks to 370 and 35A and the kind of anomalies that were created systematically by West, we allowed the entire discourse about Jammu Kashmir to be carried away by the forces, not just in Pakistan, but as said, within the valley and internationally, to sell Kashmir as just a communal religious issue of Islamic radicalization. We need to say this is about idea of India. Kashmir as a valley has represented our civilization where Shaivite, Buddhist and Islamic, or rather I would call it the Sufi culture really thrived and became a melting point. That narrative has to be restored and retold to the next generation of Jammu Kashmir, and at the same time to be countered globally with effective intellectual narrative and the strong historical research. I think that will be a great long-term strategy to save Jammu Kashmir from going to the path of radicalization.
Okay, all right. On that note, then I'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. What's coming out of this discussion is that from a security point of view, things have improved for the better over the last 1 year. We need to ensure better integration of the youth. We also need to have technical solutions that filter and block out propaganda from across the border that corrupt the minds of the youth. Torchbearers of separatism have become redundant and the discourse has changed in the last 1 year. Political system has to be restored, but first the problems have to be sorted out. Ensure fruits of governance reach the people, give the voiceless a voice. With that, it's